There are those who walk through life as though they are swept along by the current, allowing the winds of circumstance to dictate their path. And there are those who stand firm, rooted in the soil of their own conviction, unshaken by the storms around them. To understand the minds of those who are strong, one must first understand the quiet power of choice. For it is not the loudest voice, nor the sharpest tongue, nor even the weight of circumstance that defines strength. It is the way a soul responds to what comes, the way it chooses to perceive, to act, to endure. Mentally strong people do not flee from discomfort. They do not beg for life to be easier. They do not clutch at the fleeting approval of others, hoping that it might shield them from the bitter winds of reality. They meet the world with the courage of presence, aware that life's trials are neither punishments nor accidents, but teachers disguised in patience and resilience. They think differently not because they are better, nor because they have escaped the pain that comes to all living beings, but because they have learned to listen. They listen to the voice inside that whispers truth, even when the world shouts otherwise. And they listen to the lessons hidden in each encounter, each misstep, each heartbreak. They understand that life does not bend for those who demand it to. It unfolds for those who are willing to see what is hidden in plain sight. To be mentally strong is not to be unfeeling, but to feel deeply and then choose wisely. It is to recognize that anger, fear, and despair are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. They arrive, and then, if invited, they leave, leaving behind the wisdom of their presence. Those who cultivate mental strength do not waste their energy wrestling with what they cannot control. They have learned the delicate art of discernment, the quiet mastery of seeing clearly the boundary between what belongs to them and what does not. And in that clarity they find peace. It is not a peace born of resignation, but a peace born of recognition. They know that the world will offer injustice, disappointment, and betrayal, and yet they do not allow these things to define them. Instead, they gather themselves, gather their thoughts, and they move forward, ever forward, like rivers carving valleys through stone, persistent, patient, unstoppable in their course. Mentally strong people are aware of the whispers of doubt that live in every mind. They know the shadows that creep in when the night grows long, when silence surrounds them, when voices of criticism and fear seem to echo louder than any affirmation. And yet they do not surrender. They do not bow to the tyranny of negativity. They meet these shadows not with fear, but with understanding. They turn to the light within, and with each step, each breath, they build the fortitude to continue. They are architects of their own minds, constructing a sanctuary where resilience, hope, and wisdom reside, where despair may visit but cannot settle. They do not compare themselves to others. They understand that the world's measure is not their measure, that the accolades, the applause, and the envy of others hold no sway over a soul at peace with itself. Comparison is the thief of joy, and they have learned to guard their joy as fiercely as a mother guards her child. In the stillness of self-awareness, they find the freedom to grow without the shadow of someone else's path dimming their own light. Each step they take is authentic, guided by a compass that points not to approval, but to truth. And it is in this authenticity that they find the courage to continue when the world's chorus would have them falter. The mind of the mentally strong is disciplined yet flexible. It is not rigid with pride, nor stubborn with ego. It bends with the wind, adjusts to the changing seasons of life, and yet it stands tall in principle. They know when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen, when to fight and when to forgive. They do not let pride dictate their actions, nor do they let anger cloud their judgment. Their emotions are not shackles, but instruments, tools to understand and navigate the complexities of life. They have learned that emotional control is not the denial of feeling, but the mastery of feeling, acknowledging it, understanding it, and then choosing how it will guide them. Mentally strong people embrace failure as a companion, not a foe. They understand that each stumble, each miscalculation, each setback is a lesson draped in humility. They do not fear the fall, for they know that within it lies the knowledge that cannot be gained from success alone. They rise again and again, not because life has been kind, but because they have cultivated a spirit that refuses to yield. And with each rise they become more attuned to the rhythm of perseverance, the song of endurance, the melody of hope. They do not measure their worth by the ease of their journey, but by the strength with which they navigate its storms. They choose their battles carefully. They understand the futility of wasting energy on what cannot be changed. They do not chase after approval or validation, nor do they seek revenge for every slight. They conserve their energy for what matters, for what builds, for what nourishes the soul. They act with intention, knowing that each thought, each word, each deed shapes the trajectory of their lives. Their strength is quiet, yet unyielding, invisible to those who seek spectacle, yet undeniable in its presence. And in this intentionality, they find freedom, the freedom to focus, to grow, to thrive in a world that often tempts distraction and despair. They cultivate gratitude, not as a ritual but as a lens. They see blessings where others see misfortune, opportunities where others see obstacles. Gratitude is their companion, a steady reminder that even in suffering, life offers gifts, sometimes subtle, sometimes profound. And this lens does not blind them to reality, it sharpens it. It allows them to see clearly the beauty amid struggle, the lesson amid pain, the possibility amid despair. In the practice of gratitude they discover resilience, for to acknowledge the good is to anchor the mind against the currents of negativity that threaten to sweep it away. Mentally strong people also embrace solitude, not as loneliness, but as a sanctuary for thought. They are not afraid to face themselves, to confront the fears, doubts, and desires that dwell within. In this quiet they listen to the whispers of their own hearts. They reckon with the truths they might otherwise avoid, and they emerge more whole, more grounded, more attuned to the rhythm of their own being. Solitude teaches them patience, introspection, and self-reliance. It allows them to distinguish between the noise of the world and the wisdom of the self, between the transient and the eternal, between what is urgent and what is essential. They speak with purpose and listen with intention. They understand the weight of words, the power of silence, the influence of presence. Their speech is measured, their expressions deliberate. They do not squander their voice on trivialities or empty disputes. And yet they are not mute. They know when words are necessary to heal, to inspire, to guide, and they use them with precision and compassion. Their listening is an act of love, a recognition of the humanity in others, a commitment to understanding before judging. In this balance of speech and silence, they cultivate clarity, connection, and authority. Mentally strong people hold themselves accountable. They do not blame circumstances, nor do they point fingers at others for their misfortune. They see the role of choice in every outcome, the responsibility they bear for their thoughts, their actions, and their lives. Accountability is not burden, but liberation, for in accepting ownership of their path, they gain control over it. They understand that while they cannot command the world, they can command themselves. And in this command lies power, the power to transform, to endure, to create a life that reflects the highest vision of self. They practice forgiveness, not as a gift to others alone, but as a balm for their own hearts. They understand that resentment is a poison, that anger unbridled is a chain. To forgive is not to forget, nor is it to condone. It is to release, to rise above the grip of past injuries, to reclaim the serenity that has been theirs by birthright. Forgiveness is an act of strength, a declaration that the mind will not be held hostage by pain. And in this liberation they discover peace, a deep, abiding peace that allows them to move forward unencumbered, unshaken, unwavering. Mentally strong people see life as a series of choices, each imbued with consequence, each offering an opportunity for growth. They do not wait for luck, nor do they rely on chance. They understand the power of decision, the gravity of action, the subtle but profound influence of intention. And they wield this power with discernment, knowing that each choice shapes the contours of their lives, molds the character of their souls, and echoes in the hearts of those around them. Their lives are not dictated by circumstance alone, but by the deliberate, thoughtful cultivation of thought and action. They embrace change not as a threat, but as a constant companion. They recognize that life is not static, that the seasons of existence shift with or without their consent. They flow with this movement, adapting, adjusting, and learning, yet never surrendering the core of who they are. Change is not to be feared nor resisted. It is to be understood, navigated, and, when possible, welcomed. In this embrace, they find freedom, the freedom to grow beyond limitation, to transform beyond expectation, to thrive beyond fear. Mentally strong people nurture their minds with knowledge, their hearts with compassion, their spirits with purpose. They seek wisdom not as a possession but as a guiding light. They understand that learning is a lifelong endeavor, that insight often comes from experience, and that humility is the gateway to growth. They surround themselves with truth, with ideas that challenge, with people who inspire, and they distance themselves from toxicity that drains and diminishes. In this cultivation, they create a fertile ground where resilience, clarity, and joy may flourish. They trust themselves, yet remain open to guidance. They listen to intuition as one might listen to the quiet voice of a trusted friend. They weigh advice with discernment, knowing that not every word carries the weight of wisdom. Yet they remain teachable, for they understand that strength is not the absence of learning, but the willingness to learn in every season. They balance confidence with humility, assertiveness with receptivity, and in this balance they find the ability to navigate the complexities of life with grace and courage. Discomfort is a companion that few choose willingly, a visitor that arrives unannounced and often unwelcome. Yet those who are mentally strong have learned to recognize it, not as an enemy, but as a guide, a teacher that shapes the soul in ways ease and comfort never could. To embrace discomfort is not to invite suffering. It is to acknowledge the presence of difficulty and allow it to instruct, to refine, to reveal the strength that lies dormant within. The world will not always bend to our desires. Life does not always reward the prepared or the patient in the way we expect. There will be moments when the body aches, the heart trembles, and the mind questions its own courage. It is in these moments, in the tension between what is and what must be endured, that growth is born. Those who are strong do not shrink from this tension. They step into it, breathe through it, and allow it to shape them quietly but profoundly. The process of embracing discomfort is not instantaneous. It is a slow unfolding, a careful cultivation of patience and courage. At first, it may feel like resistance, like an instinctive recoil from pain or uncertainty. This is natural. The human mind and body are designed to seek safety, to cling to familiarity, to protect themselves from what threatens stability. But the mentally strong understand that this instinct is not always wise. Growth rarely resides in the safe harbor of complacency. It resides in the storm, in the challenge, in the moments that demand more than what we thought we could give. And so they make a choice, a quiet, deliberate choice to remain present in the discomfort, to examine it, to learn from it, and to use it as a stepping stone toward a more resilient, capable self. They understand that discomfort comes in many forms. Sometimes it is physical, the ache of long effort, the strain of pushing beyond familiar limits, the weariness of persistence. Other times it is emotional, a tension that grips the heart when dreams are deferred, when relationships falter, when fears rise unbidden from the depths of memory. It may be social, a test of standing alone when the crowd whispers approval or disapproval, or intellectual, a challenge to stretch the mind, confront ignorance, and confront the truths that are difficult to face. In each form, discomfort is an opportunity, a mirror reflecting the areas where growth is most needed, where courage is yet untested, where patience and persistence will produce transformation. Those who are strong do not run from these mirrors. They stand before them with awareness, not with fear. They examine the parts of themselves that protest, that resist, that wish to retreat into ease and certainty. They listen to the complaints of the body, the doubts of the mind, the tremors of the heart, and they respond not with panic or avoidance, but with measured action. They understand that every moment of tension, every pang of unease, is a lesson in endurance, a practice in the art of living fully, a rehearsal for the challenges yet to come. By embracing discomfort, they cultivate patience, fortitude, and the capacity to remain steady when the world demands motion, when it demands more than the comfortable self is willing to offer. There is a subtle power in this practice. To face discomfort willingly is to claim agency over life itself. It is to say that one will not be defined solely by circumstance, by hardship, by the unpredictable and often cruel currents of the world. Instead, one will meet life with intention, with presence, with an understanding that even the bitterest experiences carry within them the seeds of transformation. Pain, fear, and uncertainty are not prisons, they are classrooms. The lessons they offer are not always gentle, and the instruction is rarely easy to receive. But those who are strong recognize their value. They carry discomfort as a tool, wield it with care, and allow it to teach them the subtle and often invisible lessons that ease alone could never convey. The journey into discomfort requires courage because it asks one to confront truth without illusions. It requires honesty with oneself, a willingness to see weakness, to see limitation, to see the areas where growth is overdue. Mentally strong people accept this challenge, not with self-criticism that diminishes, but with observation that enlightens. They ask themselves difficult questions, they sit in silence with uncomfortable emotions, and they do not flinch from the reflections that rise from these encounters. They understand that discomfort is not a punishment but a process, and that the more willingly they engage with it, the more swiftly and profoundly they evolve. Each encounter with unease becomes a rehearsal for resilience, each confrontation with fear a step toward mastery, each moment of tension an opportunity to strengthen the mind, heart, and spirit. The practice of embracing discomfort also demands faith in the unseen outcome, a trust that the effort invested now will yield results not immediately apparent. It is easy to endure when rewards are visible, when the fruits of labor are immediate. But true strength is cultivated when the fruits are hidden, when progress is slow, and when uncertainty looms large. The mentally strong endure not because the path is clear, but because they believe in the value of the journey itself. They act with integrity, discipline, and perseverance even when recognition is absent, when the world seems indifferent, when doubt presses upon the spirit. In this endurance, they find growth that is both deep and enduring, the kind that shapes character and fortifies the soul against future trials. Discomfort also teaches humility, a lesson that those who embrace it understand intimately. It reminds us that we are not invincible, that our understanding is limited, that our strength is tested in ways beyond our control. Mentally strong people do not resent this reminder, they welcome it. Humility allows for reflection, for adaptation, for learning from mistakes and misjudgments. It tempers pride, balances ambition, and grounds effort in reality. In this balance, discomfort becomes not a threat to self-esteem but a means of cultivating self-awareness, a bridge between aspiration and accomplishment, a necessary companion for personal evolution. There is also a joy, subtle yet profound, in learning to inhabit discomfort without resistance. It is the joy of discovering reserves of courage that were previously hidden, of finding patience that was untested, of realizing that the mind is far more adaptable than one might have imagined. This joy does not negate the difficulty, but it transforms it, framing challenges as invitations rather than obstacles, as opportunities rather than punishments. Mentally strong people cultivate this perspective, recognizing that the discomfort they endure today is the foundation for the strength they will wield tomorrow, the clarity they will achieve, and the freedom they will experience from fear and limitation. To embrace discomfort fully is to honor the human capacity for growth, to trust in the intelligence of struggle, and to recognize the richness of life that lies beyond the safe and familiar. Those who walk this path understand that the discomfort they meet is a sculptor of the self, shaping resilience, compassion, wisdom, and courage with each encounter. They learn to anticipate challenge not with dread but with readiness. They meet adversity with curiosity, patience, and determination, knowing that the lessons contained within are more valuable than any moment of ease could provide. They accept the ebb and flow of struggle, the rhythm of tension and release, and they allow themselves to be molded by experience rather than dulled by avoidance. In the final measure, those who embrace discomfort as a tool for growth do so not to prove anything to others, but to honor their own capacity, to cultivate a mind that is flexible yet firm, a heart that is tender yet strong, and a spirit that is unwavering yet adaptable. They see life as a series of opportunities to refine themselves through the challenges they face, to test their courage against the harshness of reality, and to emerge with a sense of power that is quiet but unshakable, a confidence rooted in endurance, understanding, and the deliberate choice to engage fully with all that life offers, the bitter as well as the sweet. Self-awareness is a quiet companion, often overlooked in a world that celebrates speed, noise, and constant motion. It is the light that shines inward, illuminating the hidden corridors of thought, the shadowed corners of behavior, and the subtle patterns that shape who we are and how we live. Those who are mentally strong recognize the power of this light, and they cultivate it carefully, deliberately, like one tending a garden that will not bloom without patience and attention. They understand that to know oneself is to hold the key to freedom, for the mind that is conscious of its own workings is not easily swayed by impulse, fear, or the opinions of others. They look inward with courage, for self-awareness is not always comfortable. It exposes weakness as well as strength, error as well as wisdom, limitation as well as potential. To cultivate self-awareness is to learn to observe without judgment, to witness the flow of thoughts and emotions as they arise, without being carried away by them. Mentally strong people practice this observation daily, turning their attention to the subtleties of their own reactions, the patterns of their behavior, and the motivations that guide their choices. They ask themselves difficult questions. Why did I feel that anger rise? Why did I shrink from that opportunity? What fear is holding me back from speaking my truth? And in asking, they do not demand immediate answers. They listen instead, patiently, letting the mind reveal itself in its own time, understanding that the truths we seek are often hidden beneath layers of habit, conditioning, and self-deception. They understand that thoughts are not facts, that feelings are not commands, and that the self is not a single, unchanging entity, but a landscape of many moving parts. To be self-aware is to recognize the difference between what is instinct and what is intention, what is reaction and what is reflection. Mentally strong people practice discernment in this space, noticing when their judgments are clouded by bias, when their emotions have taken the reins, and when their actions are guided by past conditioning rather than present choice. They examine the roots of their impulses, tracing them back to their source, and in this examination, they gain insight and power over the life they lead. Self-awareness also demands honesty, a brutal and tender honesty that cannot be faked or avoided. It requires the willingness to confront unpleasant truths, to see where one has erred, to acknowledge the ways in which pride, fear, or desire have shaped decisions and caused harm. Those who are mentally strong do not flinch from this confrontation. They face it with the understanding that to know oneself is to gain mastery over oneself, and that mastery is the foundation of freedom. They forgive themselves where needed, not to excuse error, but to allow clarity and growth to emerge from understanding. They recognize that self-compassion is not weakness, but the steadying hand that allows the mind to explore its own depths without being consumed by shame or regret. Observation of thought and behavior leads to insight, and insight leads to action. Mentally strong people do not merely catalog their patterns, they transform them. They notice where impatience leads to conflict, where fear leads to inaction, where negativity leads to self-doubt, and then, with conscious effort, they adjust. They replace reaction with reflection, impulsiveness with deliberation, and despair with determination. They understand that self-awareness is not a static achievement, but a living practice, an ongoing engagement with the self that requires attention, honesty, and courage every day. Each moment of reflection is an opportunity to correct, to refine character, to deepen understanding, and to live with greater intentionality. The cultivation of self-awareness also extends to awareness of one's body and its signals. Mentally strong people are attuned to the ways in which stress, fatigue, hunger, or imbalance influence their thoughts and behaviors. They notice the tension that arises in shoulders, the tightness in the chest, the fatigue that dulls judgment. They do not dismiss these signals as weakness. They honor them as communication from the body, a partner in the work of self-understanding. By listening to the body as well as the mind, they create alignment between thought, emotion, and action, fostering a life that is both grounded and conscious, resilient and responsive. Self-awareness strengthens relationships, for those who know themselves are better equipped to understand others. Mentally strong people recognize that their perceptions, biases, and assumptions color their interactions, and they seek to see beyond these filters. They listen with empathy, speak with intention, and act with clarity. By understanding their own triggers, they navigate conflict with grace. By recognizing their own needs and boundaries, they communicate honestly. By observing their own tendencies toward judgment or projection, they cultivate patience and compassion. In this way, self-awareness becomes not only a tool for personal growth, but a bridge to meaningful connection, a means of building trust, understanding, and respect in every interaction. They also use self-awareness to manage ambition, success, and power. They are conscious of how desire, ego, and external validation can influence decisions and cloud judgment. They monitor themselves, ensuring that their pursuit of goals does not compromise values, that success does not erode humility, and that influence is exercised with integrity. They understand that self-awareness is a shield against the seductions of pride and the traps of overconfidence. By maintaining a vigilant inner eye, they ensure that progress is guided by principle, not impulse, and that achievement is accompanied by wisdom rather than arrogance. Mentally strong people understand that self-awareness requires reflection, but also requires action. It is not enough to know one's patterns. One must also choose to respond differently when necessary. They recognize that change is born from both insight and effort, that understanding without application is incomplete. They set intentions, practice mindfulness, and take deliberate steps to align their behavior with the understanding they cultivate. Each day becomes an opportunity to refine thought, temper emotion, and guide behavior toward authenticity and integrity. Each decision, small or large, is informed by the ongoing dialogue within, the continuous observation and adjustment that constitutes self-mastery. The practice of self-awareness nurtures resilience. When challenges arise, mentally strong people are less likely to be tossed by circumstance because they understand their own reactions and have cultivated the capacity to respond rather than react. They notice fear, frustration, or doubt, and instead of being driven by these forces, they engage with them, question them, and let them inform a measured response. They observe the mind's tendency to catastrophize, to slip into self-criticism, or to cling to the past, and they gently redirect attention to clarity, solution, and possibility. In this way, self-awareness is a source of strength, providing the internal stability that allows one to navigate the external turbulence of life. They also see self-awareness as a lifelong journey. There is no final point of mastery, no ultimate destination where one can claim to fully know oneself. Each season brings new challenges. Each encounter teaches new lessons. Each stage of life reveals aspects of character that were previously hidden. Mentally strong people remain students of themselves, committed to exploration, reflection, and growth. They approach each day with curiosity about their own mind, each relationship with attentiveness to their patterns, each decision with awareness of both motive and impact. In this ongoing process, they cultivate wisdom, resilience, and the capacity to live with intention, clarity, and grace. Through self-awareness, mentally strong people gain freedom, the freedom to choose their reactions, to shape their character, to live with integrity, and to align action with purpose. They are not slaves to unconscious patterns, not prisoners of past mistakes, not victims of unchecked emotion. They are architects of their inner world, carefully observing, understanding, and guiding themselves with the patience and skill required to build a life of meaning, resilience, and fulfillment. Self-awareness allows them to stand in the midst of challenge with calm and clarity, to act from understanding rather than impulse, and to grow continuously in mind, heart, and spirit. To maintain a forward-looking mindset is to walk through life with a vision that stretches beyond the immediate, beyond the trials of today, beyond the shadows that seek to cloud the horizon. Those who are mentally strong understand that the mind is a garden, and if it is filled with fear, doubt, and limitation, it will bear only weeds. But if it is tended with intention, watered with hope, and nourished with possibility, it can blossom in ways that the soul has only imagined. The forward-looking mind does not dwell on what has been lost, what has been unfair, or what cannot be changed. It does not linger on the mistakes that echo in memory, nor does it let the judgments of others dictate the value of the self. Instead, it turns naturally, insistently, toward the open road ahead, toward the opportunities waiting to be discovered, toward the potential that lies dormant, waiting only for attention, courage, and action. Those who cultivate this mindset understand that limitation is often a perception rather than a reality. The mind that focuses on what cannot be done will remain trapped, stagnant, and small. The mentally strong refuse this captivity. They see beyond the boundaries others impose, beyond the obstacles that seem insurmountable, beyond the doubts whispered by fear. They focus on what might be, what could be, what is possible if persistence, creativity, and courage are brought to bear. And in focusing on possibilities, they unlock reserves of energy, inspiration, and determination that carry them further than they once thought they could go. Possibility in their eyes is not naive optimism. It is a deliberate choice to act as though the future can be shaped, because they know from experience that it can. A forward-looking mindset requires resilience in the face of failure and disappointment. Life does not grant passage to those who wait for perfection, nor does it promise reward to those who cling to past grievances. Mentally strong people encounter setbacks, yet they do not allow these setbacks to define their vision. They recognize that every obstacle contains the seed of a new direction. Every failure carries a lesson that strengthens the resolve, and every challenge presents an opportunity to refine strategy, to grow and to rise again. In this way, a forward-looking mindset is not blind to difficulty, nor is it sheltered from hardship. It is strengthened precisely by the act of continuing to see possibilities, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. They also understand that the present moment is the doorway to the future. Dwelling excessively on regret or fear of the unknown is a form of imprisonment. Mentally strong people honor the lessons of the past without allowing them to anchor the mind in despair, and they acknowledge the uncertainty of the future without letting it paralyze action. They act decisively in the moment, guided by the possibilities that lie just ahead, and they do so with a faith in their own capacity to navigate the journey. They recognize that action rooted in vision creates momentum, and that momentum itself brings clarity, opportunity, and progress. The forward-looking mind does not procrastinate or hesitate. It steps steadily even when the path is unclear, trusting that insight will come with movement. To maintain this mindset, they cultivate hope as an active practice rather than a passive feeling. Hope is not merely wishing for better circumstances. It is the conscious choice to see beyond limitation, to imagine potential, and to orient every thought, word, and deed toward growth. Mentally strong people feed hope with knowledge, experience, and purpose, ensuring that it is grounded in reality while expansive in imagination. Hope becomes a compass, guiding decisions, inspiring persistence, and sustaining energy when obstacles loom large. Without it, the mind becomes reactive, small, and constrained. With it, the mind stretches toward horizons previously unseen, creating pathways where none appeared to exist. They understand the power of language in shaping perspective. The words we choose, the stories we tell ourselves, the way we describe our experiences, all of these influence whether the mind dwells on limitations or possibilities. Mentally strong people are careful with language, aware that negative self-talk, fatalistic phrases, and habitual expressions of doubt reinforce a mindset of confinement. Instead, they speak of challenges as opportunities, of failure as feedback, of uncertainty as invitation. They frame their internal dialogue in ways that expand vision rather than contract it, nurturing a mental landscape in which creativity, courage, and perseverance can flourish. Every thought becomes an instrument, every word a tool, shaping not only perception but action. And in this shaping, the forward-looking mindset is strengthened. Maintaining such a mindset also requires discernment. Possibility does not mean pursuing every opportunity indiscriminately. Mentally strong people know that resources, time, energy, attention are limited, and they focus these on endeavors that align with purpose, values, and potential impact. They distinguish between fleeting distractions and meaningful possibilities, choosing with care where to invest effort. In doing so, they conserve energy for the actions that truly matter, ensuring that forward-looking thinking translates into meaningful progress rather than scattered effort. Possibility becomes not chaos but direction, not fantasy but actionable potential, shaped by intention and guided by wisdom. Mentally strong people cultivate imagination alongside realism. They envision futures that challenge their current limitations, yet they pair this vision with plans, steps, and discipline to make it attainable. They dream expansively while acting practically, blending creativity with strategy, aspiration with method. They understand that to focus solely on constraints is to suffocate innovation, while to pursue dreams without planning invites chaos. The forward-looking mindset balances these forces, holding hope and strategy in the same hand, imagining new possibilities while laying the groundwork to reach them. In this balance, they move steadily toward growth. achieving not only what is possible but also what once seemed impossible. They surround themselves with stimuli that expand perspective. Mentally strong people seek ideas, relationships, and experiences that broaden their view of what is achievable. They listen to voices of wisdom, study models of resilience, and expose themselves to environments that challenge conventional thinking. They understand that the mind is shaped not only by internal reflection, but also by the external world, and they curate this world carefully. Exposure to possibility inspires action, and immersion in growth-minded environments reinforces the belief that limitation is often a choice, while opportunity is often within reach. In this way, a forward-looking mindset is both cultivated inwardly and nourished outwardly, a continuous dialogue between self and world. Forward-looking thinkers are also patient with progress. They know that growth is often incremental, that breakthroughs rarely occur without steady effort, and that success without preparation is fleeting. They celebrate small victories, recognizing them as milestones on the path to larger achievement, and they maintain focus even when immediate results are slow to appear. Impatience, frustration, and short-term discouragement are met with awareness and reframing. Mentally strong people understand that the accumulation of consistent, purpose-driven actions produces outcomes far beyond what sporadic or impulsive effort could achieve. Patience, therefore, becomes both a strategy and a mindset, allowing possibilities to unfold in their own time, while keeping attention firmly on the horizon. They also understand that setbacks are not endpoints but recalibration points. A forward-looking mindset does not see failure as the extinguishing of possibility, but as information, feedback, and redirection. Mentally strong people analyze what went wrong, adjust their strategies, and continue moving toward their vision with renewed clarity. They understand that the road to possibility is never perfectly straight, that curves, detours, and obstacles are integral to the journey, and that the measure of strength is in persistence, not perfection. Each setback becomes an opportunity to refine understanding, strengthen resilience, and deepen commitment to forward motion. Finally, they maintain focus on what is within their control. The future contains uncertainty, the world contains forces beyond comprehension, and circumstances often shift without warning. Mentally strong people do not waste energy on what cannot be influenced. They focus instead on thought, action, preparation, and attitude, elements that are theirs to shape. They act decisively within these spheres, knowing that consistent, intentional action generates momentum, influence, and opportunity. By concentrating on what is possible rather than what is limited, they cultivate confidence, agency, and hope. In this deliberate orientation toward growth, vision, and opportunity, they create lives defined not by fear or constraint but by possibility, resilience, and the quiet but unstoppable power of forward-looking thought